Join us and discover beautiful beaches, rugged landscapes, pretty towns, desolate mountain ranges that sweep down to stunning lakes, unique architecture, history and folklore, no shamrocks, no shillelaghs, and definitely no shenanigans, just naked Ireland. Now just to the right here, you'll notice that the buildings are quite old. This is the oldest part of Waterford City. I'm just walking along what's known as the Viking Triangle, and we'll see that in more detail very soon. But Waterford has buildings from different periods in its interesting history, so stay tuned for this fascinating walking trail around the city centre. And as you can see from this nice Italian restaurant, Waterford has much to attract visitors aside from its splendid architecture. But we start on the waterfront. Waterford City is at the head of Waterford Harbour in the county town of County Waterford. This port has been one of Ireland's most important ports for over 1,000 years. Now, not all of Waterford looks pristine, but recent infrastructure improvements, such as the Waterford Greenway, making cycling in the surrounding area more appealing, definitely have brought real value to this city. And Waterford seems to be on the cusp of some exciting new developments. Just behind this old harbour master's hut sits an area screened off behind these white boards that will soon become a new transport hub. And as I mentioned, the wealth of lovely buildings that the city already has, such as this nice hotel, really makes it a lovely place to walk around. Again, you can see the area to the left of the clock designated for redevelopment. If they get this right, the old clock, beside gleaming new architecture, could be very attractive. On the subject of great buildings, we've just turned off the quays and onto Barronstrand Street. And look at this. This is the Cathedral of the Most Holy Trinity, the oldest post-Reformation Catholic cathedral in Ireland, dating from 1793. But there's not just food for the soul in this street. Further up, the street opens up and hosts some outdoor seating that we need to use our imagination to appreciate. I mean, I'm filming today on a Thursday morning in January, but I'm sure you can picture this place on an August Saturday night. It would be a great place to sit out and eat if the weather permitted. I like the trees in this square and the tiny paving stones. The Vikings settled here in 853, but were sent packing again by the Irish by 902, only to return in 914 when they established Ireland's first city. But the ownership was to change again in 1170 when the deposed King of Leinster, Dairmait MacMurrough, teamed up with the Norman Richard de Clare, otherwise known as Strongbow, and after severe resistance eventually took the city. King Henry II of England was to arrive soon after, declaring the city, along with Dublin, a royal city. There aren't that many people around this royal city this morning, but nevertheless, it's a lovely place to stroll around. As we arrive in this new spacious square, again it strikes me as an area that would be popular for outdoor eating and drinking in the spring and summertime. And you can see there's a few pubs dotted around the side of the square. And as always in Irish towns, there are some nice shop fronts and lovely local traders selling their wares. And the city has placed these sculptures at intervals around the streets, which draw upon the historic past of Waterford. And I was surprised actually at how many streets suddenly opened out into spacious piazzas. There's another one of those Viking totem pole thingies. Again, it's only a short walk from Arundel Square before we enter another piazza-like space. I must say I find the layout of Waterford full of surprises and great to dander around. Or cycle, I guess. Waterford has its own bike rental scheme. And another sculpture. And you can see a mural on the wall facing us now. We'll see a lot of murals as we proceed, some of them pretty spectacular, so stay tuned for that. This old stone building tucked away down Conduit Lane was a real surprise. This is a Dominican friary founded in 1236, known as Blackfriars Abbey, owned by Waterford City Council and earmarked for renovation. The plan is to turn this into a functioning civic space and to further enhance this medieval part of the city. Geoffrey of Waterford was a French translator. While he obviously lived here on and off, he based himself mostly in Paris. Such was the international profile of clerical scholars in Ireland at that time. He translated Latin texts into French. I look forward to seeing how this project develops in the years ahead. It's just another example of how this city is improving itself and consolidating its magnificent ancient architecture. And just around the corner, back in the quay, we have this amazing doorway into this beautiful building with its handsome cut stone facade. It's a shame we didn't get a better day for this tour, but sure, you've got to get used to a bit of rain if you want to visit Ireland. Actually, the wet pavements look quite nice on film. Another in our series of sculptures. Oh, and this little shop caught my eye. Moira's fashion shop. Eat your heart out, Paris and Milan. We're encircling here what's called the Viking Triangle, and we'll walk up through it in a minute. It's a pretty handsome part of town. And just to redress the balance, there's a very authentic looking fine clothing shop just down the quay a bit from poor Moira's. Now I'm heading across to the riverside again just to look at how this promenade has been developed, and as we walk this might be a good time to ask you to like the video if it's been interesting or informative, and of course subscribe, hitting the bell icon. Subscribing is so important in terms of supporting Naked Ireland, which I know you want to do. It helps me get more interesting content out to you. So I think this must be the first Viking influenced bandstand I've seen, and this whole boardwalk area is called William Vincent Wallace Plaza, after a locally born opera composer. The bandstand here is a fitting tribute, obviously. And this impressive sculpture depicting ship sails in an albeit more abstract form is by Liam Lavery. This area of Custom House Quay was developed in 2000 as part of the city's Millennium celebrations. 1,000 years is a noble birthday for any city. And speaking of 1,000 years ago, this next building ahead of us is called Reginald's Tower, named after one of the city's Viking rulers. Having said that, it was built by the Anglo-Normans, although replacing an earlier Viking fortification. It's therefore not quite 1,000 years old, but was probably constructed between 1253 and 1280 after Prince John of England landed here in 1185 and started a grand rebuilding programme. However, this is the oldest civic building in Ireland and one of Ireland's first fortifications to use mortar in its construction. It now houses a museum, but in the past it's functioned as a mint, a prison and a military storehouse. There's the Tower Hotel and Leisure Centre in front of us now. And for the more romantic people out there, this tower was also the location of a wedding of the knight Strongbow, Richard de Clare, the second Earl of Pembroke, and Aoife, the daughter of Dairmait MacMurrough, the King of Leinster. An example, I guess, of the alliances that were struck by the native Irish and Anglo-Normans. In many cases, the Anglo-Normans settled into life in Ireland and are reputed to have become more Irish than the Irish. And we have many French-sounding surnames in Ireland today that have their origin in the Anglo-Norman invasion. Now look at this. Never let it be said that Naked Ireland doesn't bring you drama around every corner. This is a replica of an actual 40-foot Viking longboat. Amazingly, this boat was built by a group of enthusiasts from Waterford, a cabinet maker, joiner, carpenter, a plumber, architect, welder, electrician, even a coast guard. There's a large red sail, but it's obviously lowered today due to the weather. Its name, as you can see, is Waterford, the Viking name for Waterford. It's apparently modelled on a famous Viking longboat found in Denmark. It's a remarkable piece of craftsmanship, but an amazing social project too, I think you'll agree. We're going to walk up the centre of the Viking Triangle now, along Bailey's New Street. Lovely old doorways here and nice Georgian houses. And then we encounter this. We've already found a Dominican friary on our walk. This is a Franciscan friary. This place was founded in 1240 by Sir Hugh Purcell, who had connections with the guy I've just been talking about, the knight Strongbow. The establishment of this friary was again obviously during the city's Anglo-Norman period. Now we're right in the heart of Waterford's Anglo-Norse triangle here, so the ground on which this place is sited would have been prominent real estate in its day, leading us to believe that this friary was possibly founded on behalf of King Henry III. By 1616, this place had become an asylum for the poor and was active as a hospital until the 19th century. And so we have a great mix of architecture all around us in this old part of town, most of it excellent. And I mentioned murals earlier, here are some more, but there's plenty more spectacular ones to come later. The King of the Vikings here is a virtual reality experience that you might want to check out if you come here. Now I haven't bothered, preferring reality to virtual reality, but I'm sure it's excellent. And everywhere you go you find these information boards that make understanding the area's history accessible. Now here's a real mix of architecture, but this is an example in my opinion of what works. What looks like a high quality modern building, a new museum, sandwiched between an impressive Georgian house and the side of Christ Church Cathedral. And this entire cathedral square looks magnificent, as you can see. In my opinion, modern architecture can easily work alongside older buildings, provided the quality of the new building is substantial. I think the colour is used here to great effect to give the new building a feeling that it belongs. And there are quite a lot of blue plaques on the walls of the houses in Waterford. I get the feeling that the city is prepared to celebrate its notable citizens. This house, called God's People's House, was founded in 1487 as a retirement home. It's now the Irish Wake Museum. Irish wakes, held in people's homes after someone has died, are famous. This unusual museum holds some interesting artefacts associated with death in Ireland. But it was this very much alive artwork in the window that caught my attention. One more look around this splendid square. Another blue plaque up there. It seems that every house has a story to tell here. And then at the end of the street we have this memorial after a soldier believed to have been the youngest killed during the First World War at just 14 years of age. John Condon lied about his age to join the Royal Irish Regiment in 1913 and died in the following year in a gas attack. This memorial is dedicated to all Irish men and women who have died in armed conflicts. And right next to the monument, this little shop front caught my eye. I'd seen it advertised online. It's a little wine bar, but I'm guessing it must have been a pub at some point. Again, this is a nice little junction where you can pause for a moment and get your bearings. And of course, the manufacture of glassware is synonymous with Waterford. This is a little atelier I stumbled on, where you can see the artist in action. And we'll see the premises of a much bigger and more famous glass manufacturing company in a minute, but I thought this little independent trader deserved a feature. Now we're now at the front of Christ Church Cathedral, and I've arrived at a little park. I must say that I really like the layout of Waterford. You never seem to be far from open space. And here's a sculpture depicting that marriage between the knight Strongbow and the King of Leinster's daughter, Aoife. And we already talked about the opera composer William Vincent Wallace. This was his place of abode. And here's a company Waterford is famous for. Known for glassmaking, and when we think of Irish glassmaking, the famous Waterford Crystal, established in 1783, will always come to mind. This visitor centre opened in 2010, so if glassware is your thing, then a visit here is obligatory. And on we go through this fascinating Viking Triangle. This is called Lady Lane, and there seems to be a number of ecclesiastical buildings here of one sort or another. Albeit they're not all functioning for ecclesiastical purposes anymore. This church, for example, appears to be a badminton club, although I guess it might still be run by the church. And we've seen so many examples of good architecture, I think it's probably only fair, for balance, to show a horrendous example. And still right smack in the centre of this amazing Viking Triangle too. But this old Georgian house opposite is currently being renovated, so it's great to see these old buildings being preserved for the future. And this will look amazing. Plaques and more plaques. And I'd say this looks to me like an old convent. I'm sure someone who lives in Waterford can confirm that in the comments. A nice old stone building anyway. We're back down now on Barronstrand Street again, and we're about to head off along Great George Street on our way to O'Connell Street. Again, I'm guessing that O'Flynn's Butchers there has been serving prime cuts to the community for many years. These local retailers are so important to any local community. And hanging geese are a welcome change from the usual coloured umbrellas you see in towns these days. These narrow, more commercial streets have some lovely looking pubs, although alas, it's still early to get into them. Again, I ask you to use your imagination and see this area on a Saturday night in August. Thronged with people. Now look at how this wall has been painted. This part of town is covered with these larger than life murals. And although we're out of the Viking Triangle now, the buildings around here are still grand. Maybe you fancy a bit of theatre while you're here. Again, another great looking little pub. again closed. Now this pub, I did go in, not today though, last night. And what I found within will be the subject of a whole new future film, but suffice to say that Tully's Bar in O'Connell Street is a great place, so look out for that one. Now talking of pubs, you probably know that by now you can buy me a pint if you find these Naked Ireland videos informative, or dare I say, enjoyable. It's just a fun way of donating to the channel and offering a bit of support to keep things going. All donations are very welcome, large and small. Just follow the link in the second paragraph of the description below the video. It'll take you directly to the donation page. It's really easy. Now as we look at the old granary down this side street, I hope you had the chance there to take in all those murals we just passed, but in any case, there are even more spectacular ones to come. Like this, for example. And even the shopkeepers seem to be getting in on the act. So maybe it's time for a little more history. This city remained Catholic after the Reformation as part of the Confederation of Kilkenny until our old friend Oliver Cromwell brought the entire country under English rule, with Waterford finally succumbing after 2 sieges in 1650. Subsequently, in 1690, after the Battle of the Boyne, a Jacobite army in the city was forced to surrender. The 18th century was then a period of prosperity, hence the city's beautiful Georgian architecture. And even this modern building housing a Fitzwilliam Hotel has adopted murals as a way of standing out and drawing attention to itself. Or is it blending in? In any case, it's all the better for it. Other famous Waterford residents that I haven't yet mentioned are singer Val Doonigan, singer-songwriter Gilbert O'Sullivan, jazz guitarist Louis Stewart, and cyclist Sean Kelly. Now if you're watching from the US or Canada or another far-flung place, I'm not sure how impressive these names will sound to you, but you can Google them. Now Blah is a rather nice, doughy white bread roll that's peculiar to Waterford and that I had for breakfast this morning. They take pride in this delicacy here, as you can see. So that's Waterford in all its medieval and pictorial beauty, and it is beautiful. No wonder there's a rainbow in the sky. This town is a pot of gold at the end of this colourful island of ours, and I strongly recommend discovering all it has to offer. But until you get the chance, I'll be back again soon with another Naked Ireland video.